Welcome back to our little how to buy a lathe series here. And last video we took a look at some common lathes and some general tips and some just, difference between a few different brands. This video we're basically going to go over parts of the lathe itself. Now, like I said, I'm making this for somebody that has never seen a lathe before or is just shopping for the first one. So we're kind of going to go into what a screw cutting gearbox is, what a change gear lathe is, and kind of how to identify those from a picture you see on Craigslist. There's nothing worse than looking on Craigslist, finding that lathe, and thinking it's something else, and driving 2 or 3 hours away and realizing it's something completely different and something that you didn't want. And those pictures on Craigslist, so let me tell you, absolutely amazing. So we'll go into things to kind of pick out in those pictures that'll give you an idea of what the lathe is. Not necessarily actual make and model, but it'll give you, is it a change gear lathe? Is it a, does it have a power cross feed? Is it, power feed by the half nuts only, and things like that. And then we're also going to go into general things like, tailstock tapers and stuff like that and what they are. Not really in depth or anything like that, but just kind of as it pertains to the different lathes and things like that. So let's get up on the lathe here. We'll start from the headstock end and work our way backwards. And then after we go through this, we'll probably go into the actual wear testing of the lathe, which if I can put it in this video, I will. If not, it'll be in next week's video. And then we'll discuss after that some must-have items for the lathe that you really wouldn't want to buy a lathe without, and some added extras that if it has it, great. If not, your decision. So let's start over here and work our way back. Okay, now we're going to start talking about condition of a lathe, which is very, very subjective. You don't want to... Do you want to pass up a lathe that has some wear? That's completely up to you. But if the lathe is only costing you, a couple of $100, it has some wear, it might be something that you want to live with. Now, is there ever going to be a perfect used lathe? No, there isn't. You have to weigh the good and the bad and come up with your own decision. Now, wear is a huge subject of contention. You have to think about what you're doing with this thing. I mean, you're not working for NASA. You're not, you're making some parts in your cellar. You're playing around. You're making some things just because you want to, maybe some steam engines or something like that. It's more than likely not going to be anything that's going to be super, super high precision. So you have to keep that in mind. Also, wear can be compensated for. Obviously, there's some wear that can't be. Like, in other words, if you have 100 thousandths of wear in your bed, obviously that's going to show. That can't be compensated for. But if if your bed wear, you have 15-20 thousandths dip in there, measurable dip, things like that can be compensated for. I think a lot of people focus on bed wear and things like that, and kind of just go a little overboard, and they're trying to get the perfect lathe, which there is none. There just is not a perfect used lathe. So just keep that in mind. And I'm just going to show you some ways to make the wear noticeable. In other words, for you to gauge how worn the lathe itself is. This isn't going to be going into actual measurable wear, how to measure bed wear, anything like that. I'm just assuming you're going to go see a lathe and you're not really bringing anything with you. In other words, you're not bringing dial indicators. You're not going crazy like that. This is just general, tug on this, pull on that. I can see this has wear. So things that you want to bring with you is you're going to want to bring a regular Phillips and a decent sized flathead. A 5-in-1 tool will probably be better. Also, bring yourself a medium or small size adjustable wrench. a mirror, I'll show you what that's for, and a flashlight, which I don't have on hand. Those should be the main tools that you bring with you, and maybe an Allen wrench, one of those little foldable Allen wrenches. Now don't go walking in with these things in your hand. Keep them in your pocket. You don't want to walk in and go look at a lathe and make it look like you're going to take it apart. It's just going to rub people the wrong way. Also, what I'm going to show you and the pieces I'm going to take off, do not just go there and take them off. Ask the person that's selling the lathe, do you mind if I just look under this cover? Because I know that if somebody came down here, if I was selling this and somebody came down here and just started unscrewing things, I'm going to kick you out of my house. Plain and simple. So just be aware of that. And by them saying no doesn't necessarily mean that they're hiding something. It just means that they don't want people messing with the lathe they're trying to sell, which really makes perfect sense. Now, most lathes that you're going to see on Craigslist aren't going to be set up to run. They're going to be kind of in the corner, probably in pieces, not on a bench, kind of shoved underneath something. And they're going to look like hell. Personally, and I'll show you pictures of what this lathe looked like when I brought it home. If I go to a house or see a Craigslist ad and I see a lathe that looks like this, I'm scared. I'm scared for two reasons. Reason number one, that person is either going to be asking a hell of a lot for that lathe because they know what it is and has, you know, obviously done work into it, has time invested in it. Or, number two, they're going to be covering something up. Okay, there are plenty of horror stories from those machinery dealers that sell those lathes that look perfect. Well, just do an internet search on there. I'm probably somebody that's watching this video will chime in the comments and, you know, tell you a story about an experience they had with one of them. A lot of them that I've seen, and granted, people that are happy with places aren't going to post things. People that are pissed off at places and unhappy are going to post things. I've seen a lot of stories and a lot of pictures of basically spray painted lathes where they just spray over everything, including chips and oil and swarf, just to make it look good so they can push it out the door. So that's another thing just to be aware of. So anyway, we're going to be using this lathe as an example, but you know, this is kind of comparable to any lathe that you're going to see. So first thing is the drive section here. Obviously, spin it. Now here's the thing though. You want to slacken the belt. If you don't know how to do it, ask the owner to do it, if it has the belt on it. And you also want to take the drive belt off the motor if there is one. Spin the shaft itself. Make sure that the counter shaft itself spins freely. Make sure there's no grinding noise. Also, give it a little bit of a wiggle. There's going to be some movement, but just make sure it's not slopping around like crazy. And same thing with the motor. Give it a little jiggle, and spin it. Make sure that the the bearings in there aren't short. If you can run the motor, obviously run it. Gear train. This is very important. Gears can be recut and replaced. Okay? This gear is part of your spindle. This is very hard to replace. So the biggest thing that you want to do is check out that gear. So let me focus in for you. So you want to look at this gear, turn your, take it out of that gear here, that would help. Move your whole gear train, make sure everything in there is moving as it should. Check and inspect this for wear and inspect this for any chips. Chips can be fixed and chips aren't that bad. Even if you have a broken tooth, it's not bad until you get 2 or more broken teeth in a row. One broken tooth, nah, you can get away with it. Just make sure that you have no major chips, no major gouges, and also make sure wear. If these are worn to a knife point, that's a lot of wear. And the lathe has been used a lot. Same thing with all these gears. Make sure that these are all intact. All these gears have no chips or anything in there. Again, if you find the chip or if you find a broken tooth, not the end of the world, just something to take into consideration. The only other thing back here is you want to make sure that you have all the gears to this. Do your research before you find it. If you can find out what the actual make is, if somebody posts the make, like say I have someone selling a 9A South Bend, make sure that you have a list of what gears it should have and what the gear train should look like, and you know, memorize that. There's plenty of resources on the internet for you to be able to do that, because like I said, you don't want a missing gear, not the end of the world. It's just something you have to take in consideration, and it is money out of your pocket. Alright, I'm going to swing you around to the front here. Okay, if it has a gearbox, these gears here on the bottom, this gear housing is open to the bottom. So, you want to make sure that that you're engaged there, and you want to cycle this gearbox through all of its gears. Give this spindle a good few turns, you know, few rotations. This is all geared just like a transmission, so these gears spin a lot slower. You want to make sure that nothing binds and that you don't hit a nasty spot in any of these slots. Like I said, so start on one. Sometimes if they don't mesh, that's not a big thing. You just have to turn it until the gears line up. So start there, work your way through all these gears, go down to the next one, work your way through this range again, check them all. Because like I said, if you have to tear this apart and replace a gear, you're getting into expenses. Also, here's where the mirror and flashlight come in handy. These are open on the bottom. So what you can do with a flashlight and a mirror is, there's the gear tree right there. And there's another shaft with the other gears there. So you can visually inspect these gears also. And also inspect for lubrication. You want a lathe that is greasy. If a lathe is dry, I'm scared because I know it hasn't been taken care of or hasn't been oiled recently. Your lathe is going to be filthy, but I mean, you want to see evidence of somebody at some point in its life lubricating it. Also, check the oilers. Check these. See if there's oil in here. If there's oil in here, it's a very good sign that somebody's been taking care of it. Okay, now here's where you got to get to asking for permission. Ask the owner if you can take these guards off. There are 2 screws on either side, one here, one here, one here, and one there. If you take these off, and I'm only going to take this one off because the other one has the switch and everything mounted to it. Okay, so you take these off, that gives you access to the bowl gear. This is the bowl gear, and back here, which you probably can't really well see, is the back gear, which this handle attaches to. So these gears here are the most common things to get chipped in these types of, in a back gear lathe. And that's from people using the back gear to lock the spindle and wrenching on a chuck or wrenching on something else and cracking a tooth. So this is definitely something you want to inspect. If they won't let you take off these guards, you can still see, not necessarily the bowl gear, but you can see these gears through these little cutouts here in the bottom. Again, that's where the mirror comes in. And this bowl gear you can kind of see through this bottom section here. And the other thing on the front here is you want to make sure that you have, if the lathe is all apart, you want to make sure you have the tensioner handle for your counter shaft. Now, spindle nose, not much to look at here. You just want to make sure that all the threads are intact, you have no chips or anything like that. Your ways, this section here, right about here, between the end of the headstock and probably maybe about 3 or 4 inches up front, maybe 5. This area right here is going to have dents. If there's going to be dents anywhere in this lathe, this is generally the place it's going to be. The reason for that is people taking off the chuck and dropping it on the ways. So inspect the ridges here and see. I have a few dings here and there. As long as you don't see a big huge divot, even a huge divot really isn't a bad thing. You can file it off. Now, the ways themselves, which I'll show you in a few how to check them. Actually, let's go down. Let's go to the lead screw. Lead screw is like any other screw. Take a look at the threads, make sure there's no munged up threads on it, and also check the size. The half nuts are never going to make it all the way down here, ever. Alright, so take a look at these threads here. More than likely, your threading area, or most of it, is going to be between, say, here, because if you notice, the half nuts lever is all the way over here. So even as close as you can get to a chuck, right around that area, this area here has never been touched by those half nuts. So most of your wear on your half nuts is probably going to be right in this general area. So take a peek at the threads here and compare them to your threads over here, size-wise. That'll give you a gauge of how much wear is on the lead screw. There actually isn't much wear on this lead screw at all, for me at least. Now, the other thing to know too is on the south ends that have power traverse. You can see here there's a key slot in the lathe. This key is what rides, there's a worm gear built into this apron. So check that out, make sure that none of these teeth are chipped off the end of it, and that there just isn't any kind of nasty dips or anything like that that's going to mess up your key in there. Now on these south bends, like I said, alright, now we're up on the top of the saddle here, and you want to check your compound a little bit. Grab it, and you want your cross side and your compound. Grab them, give them a wiggle, see if they wiggle around a little bit. If there's excessive play in there, it could be two things. It could be that these two screws in here aren't tight, or the gibs in there aren't tight. But you just want to make sure that it's not a whole bunch of slop in there. Also, a good indicator of use of a lathe, of kind of competency, just like pecker holes on a drill press table, which you'll get on lathes, is this outside corner will be chewed up. That's from people running the compound into the chuck. Extremely common on lathes that come out of a school. You can see this one's still nice and round, and there's no divots in there, so nobody has crashed this lathe. Okay, we're back up at the compound here, and you want to check for general wear. Just grab the cross side, give it a wiggle. That right there, that movement back and forth that you just saw, I don't know if you can see it, a lot of it, but that movement right there is backlash, and that's perfectly normal, and I'll show you a way to measure that. But you just want to wiggle it around, make sure that nothing's way loose or not where it's supposed to be. Also, on these south bends, if you wheel the compound all the way out, you can actually see the feed screw for it right there, and check it for burrs and things like that. Also, to check the backlash here, what you want to do is go to make sure the collar is tight. Now this is a large dial, some of them have small dials, but this is appropriate to either or, and also the compound or the cross slide. So find the 0, line up with the 0 there. Now go the opposite way, and you'll feel it go really loose and then tight, and you'll see the cross slide doesn't move and then it will move. So if I spin, right there is tight. Go back and I hit 0. Back to 0. And now just very gently, and I'm barely even touching, pull up, and right there it stops. So that's 35. So now this is a direct reading dial. So this is actually half of that. So I have 15 thousandths of actual movement backlash in this feed screw, which is roughly normal. You can give, you know, 20, 25. People make a lot of, you know, to do about backlash and stuff like that, but in all honesty, backlash is the easiest type of wear to get around. The only thing you have to worry about with backlash is parting off, and if you're using a milling attachment, you could, if it wants to grab, it'll take you cross-side with it and drag it into the work. But again, that's easy to go around with, easy to get around with, actually, you know, with experience and things like that. Now, if you want to cycle it into one of its feed modes, and if you can't power the lathe, turn it by hand here, or you gotta engage the feed, that would help. So turn it by hand. Which, again, you know, I'm just getting this in gear here. Now you can see the hand wheel moving there. Make sure everything moves as it should. And then the other way, and there's your cross feed. So everything moves as it should. Now we're going to check for bed wear. So let's put this back into neutral and then back you up a little bit. Okay. On any lathe, 90% of your bed wear is going to be probably from right in front of the chuck to about a foot, foot and a half afterwards. So pretty much this general area is going to be where all your bed wear is. So what you want to do is crank the carriage up to where you would be working really close to the chuck, and take a carriage lock, which is right here, right there, and snug it down. Now, you don't want to go super tight. You just want to give it a little nudge, just so there's some drag on the carriage, okay? Now crank your carriage all the way out, and you'll feel it at one point start to bind. Right there, I'm starting to get really tight. So my bed wear is from this spot here to this spot here, and the farther back you can go, the less wear there is. So there's wear on this bed, but it's tight, it's snug here, but it's not stopping me completely. I can still go back. I can still go. It's a little bit tighter. It's a little bit stiffer, but I can still go. I can still go. I can still go. Now it's really tight. Now it's really tight. Right there, it's really, really binding. So it starts to get super tight right around this area, and I can see the bed flaking. That's right where it stops. So my wear is right within that area, but I can still move the carriage over that whole area without it actually binding. So, like I said, if you go all the way up here, up to the front, and snug it down, sorry about that, you go all the way up to the front here and snug this down, but you can't get past here, you have a ton of wear in that area. You have a decent dip, probably a measurable dip. Now, how to look for wear on the ways, it's kind of hard to see in this light. It's because I have fluorescent lighting. Let me see if I can get you a good kind of lighting on this. All right. Okay, it's easy to see under the incandescent light here. All salt bends that do not have a hardened bed were scraped and flaked at the the factory. Now the best place to see it usually is right under the headstock, because this here is nothing has ever touched this. It's just it is here. It's just harder to see because of the way the light's hitting it. But usually, either the best place to see it is either right under the headstock or at the end of the ways, which you can see it there too. What you see is flaking. You can see it really good right here. You see these little half moon shapes? That's scraping and flaking from the factory. Now that, if there's any wear, that wears off pretty quickly. You can see right here, this is where the carriage rides. This right here is where the tailstock rides. The chuck sits here, so the tailstock never gets up this far. But right where the carriage is riding, you can see that that's not present. But on the back here, when nothing has ever rode or ever, you know, slid across it, it is present. That's another indication of wear. Now you can see that it, or I'll show you, it goes up until right about here is where the flaking starts to fade on the ways that the carriage rides on. Now that right there is where this carriage started to really bind. So right there is the original level of the ways. Now if you look back here too, just so you can show you where, you can see, let me get something to point with, you can see right here, flaking, right here, and then nothing. Well, the reason for that is that's right where the tailstock rides. So where the tailstock rides, there's no flaking. Now if I put my finger on this, I can't feel a ridge. So that's not a whole lot of wear. Same thing on these V-ways here. If you run your fingernail up to the top or the bottom and you catch a ridge on the flat, that's wear from the saddle digging into the bed. This lathe doesn't have that at all. So that's another way of you know, finding some wear and things like that. Like I said, this is, you know, visual wear and little things that you can see that this isn't going with a precision test bar and, you know, machining a piece and measuring it or anything crazy like that. This is just down and dirty. I see a lathe on Craigslist. I want to go and look at it. These are some things to pick out for wear. Let me turn the lights back on. Now on the carriage proper, make sure that whatever kind of engagement lever you have here, make sure that this works. Some of them, depending on the make, like this, you can see back here, you can see some of the gearing back there, but not a whole lot. Up here there's usually a pinion track. You want to make sure that's all intact. Let me just show you what you can see with the mirror. I mean, I don't know if you guys can see, but I can see the half nuts. I can see the pinion gear, and I can see one of the selector gears, and I can kind of see right there is the start of the worm gear. But you're not going to be able to see a whole lot in there unless you take it apart. The other thing you want to check too is this is the half nuts. This is what engages everything for threading. Make sure that it works. Make sure that it closes nice. Make sure that everything engages good. If you have a power feed lathe, this selector knob has to be in neutral for you to be able to do that. You can kind of see if this isn't here, if this thread dial isn't here, you can almost see the half nuts. It's basically two. Reason why they're called half nuts, because it looks like a nut that's cut down the middle and it clamps on the lead screw. You can kind of see the threads of it over here. The half nuts are a very common wear item, and if there's not a lot of wear on this, more than likely it's not going to be a lot of wear on the half nuts. If there is a lot of wear on this, there's going to be a lot of wear on the half nuts. But there are people out there that will be able to make you some brass inserts for this and rebuild your half nuts, and they are available. It kind of is a wear item more than anything else on the lathes. Those get worn out a whole lot. But basically you want to engage them and make sure that you can't move your carriage. If you engage them and you can move your carriage, then they're completely toast. Another thing to look for is these are way wipers. Not all lathes have them, but if you see a screw hole here on the top and no little brass way wiper with a felt,
that means that somebody either lost them or took them off. That's not necessarily a good sign. And then as far as the tailstock goes, you want to just make sure that you know, it moves freely, it's not bound up, that the lock will snug it up when you go to lock it. If they have some Morse tapered tooling, shove it in there and make sure it locks in there tight. Make sure that it ejects, and if you can, you don't necessarily have to take it out, but just sight down the bore there and make sure there are no burrs in it. Stick your finger down there and make sure there are no burrs in the actual Morse taper, or whatever taper it happens to be. And then the only other thing on the end of the lathe here is the end bearing bracket, which again, this is a little bit different. Usually this lead screw will come all the way up to the end here and you won't have this protrusion on the end. That's just my own addition from when I converted this. Just grab the lead screw, give it a wiggle, make sure there's no wiggle in and out of it. Now every self-bend lathe has this serial number stamped in the bed, which will usually tell you, I think, bed length and a couple other things. That's what these numbers, letters stand for. But the number, depending on where it falls in the series, will tell you the actual date of the lathe. Mine happens to be in 1950. Also, if you want to spend 20 bucks, you can give this number to Grizzly, pay them, and they will send you a PDF file of a serial card from when this lathe was built. It's handwritten. And it'll tell you who it was originally sold to, when it was originally sold, plus the all the original equipment that it came with, because some of these things were options. So that's kind of basics on checking
So that's some of the general basics on checking for bed wear. I'm sure people will put in the comments some other things to look for. There's by no means all of it. There are also, you can go as deep as you want into it. Like I said, this isn't to the scope of using precision test bars or even running an indicator across anything.